Welcome, y'all. In this episode, we journey into the transformative power of fire, both a force of destruction and a sacred tool of renewal. From ancient rituals to inner alchemy, we uncover how tending our inner flames can clear space for growth, turn attention into intention, and transform stress into strength. Welcome. You are listening to Our Mindful Nature, a podcast helping healers and those searching for healing respond to anxiety, overwhelm, or depression with nature-inspired meditations for better mental health. I'm your host and meditation teacher, Meryl Arnett. This podcast is recorded from my live Monday night meditation class. If you would like to access today's meditation practice or nature soundscape as a standalone audio file for your daily use, please subscribe to my newsletter at merylarnett.com. All right, y'all, grab a cup of tea, pop in your headphones, and find a comfy seat. In today's episode, we continue our exploration of the elements with a deep dive into fire. You will gain insight into sacred practices, discover the power of intentional inner work, and experience a reframe of fire as a teacher. As always, this episode is a recording of my live Monday night meditation class. Let's join in. Well, officially, happy Monday. Thank you guys for taking time out, as always, to join in the live class. I'm happy to get to practice with each of you. So we are progressing in our exploration of the elements as wisdom for our inner experience. And we started last week with wind, right? And wind is, or can be, the experience of sweeping away, right? Like you can literally imagine the wind blowing across the surface of the earth and blowing away the fallen leaves and the pine straw and the clutter, right? So wind sweeps us clean. And it also dries us out. Wind has a drying quality to it. And the idea behind that drying is, well, we're setting ourselves up to burn. We're setting ourselves up for fire. And I didn't do official research in this, but my experience and my gut tells me I think fire is the most sacred and taught of the elements within sacred practices, right? It is the most called upon element. In so many retreats and deeper practices, there are elements of fire, whether it's a literal fire that you're throwing something into and burning, or meditating in front of a flame, or like we're going to do tonight, an internal experience of fire. When we look at so many Eastern cultures, they talk about life force, chi, as sort of originating in the belly, right? And we've all heard expressions of fire in the belly and that fire of digestion or heat or energy. And now science is even talking about the gut, the belly really being a second brain, right? This link between gut health and the way our brain functions is undeniable. When we think about the element of fire, we're thinking in terms of the body in the belly, right? And I thought it might be helpful to start with a view of fire externally before we look at how it might impact us internally. And so I wanted to look at controlled or prescribed forest burns, right? So there are planned forest fires. And when you read about these, the top two benefits, the top two reasons for doing a controlled burn are these. The first is that a controlled burn reduces greatly the risk of uncontrolled wildfires, right? A controlled burn reduces the risk of uncontrolled wildfire. because it's burning away all the stuff that is dry and fallen to the ground and cluttered the floor that the wind couldn't get to. It's getting rid of some of the mitigating factors to forest fires. And so take that and now bring it inside, because it seems to me that if we consciously choose to work with the energy of fire, the energy of heat, of passion, of doing, when we consciously choose to work with that, perhaps we're mitigating a bit the uncontrolled experiences of fire in our life. So you think about moments of high stress, high anxiety, peak emotion, and the way it can feel like something flares up and comes out of nowhere. And it's only later in the day that you're like, whoa, I lost my temper, or whoa, I lost my patience. And I think we can look at that essentially as an uncontrolled wildfire. Like it comes out of nowhere, it sweeps through us. We have no ability to stop that in the moment. But the more we're actually working with those energies, the more we build our tolerance, the more we can feel it coming on, the more we can adjust, the more we can be in a controlled burn versus uncontrolled. And then the second most common benefit of a controlled burn is that fire creates rejuvenation. So when you burn vegetation and the ash falls to the ground is getting those nutrients so much faster than if we just waited for it to decompose. And then this cleared soil now has a vast exposure to sunlight, and new growth skyrockets. And it's the same within us, right? As we burn away what is weighing us down, what is no longer true, what is unhelpful, we're creating not only the nourishment we need for rejuvenation, for growth, for healing, but we're also creating the space for it in our bodies. So when we look inside, there are often two types of fire that are talked about within tantric meditation practices. The first, the most common, is Agni. If you go to a yoga class, you'll likely hear the word Agni, which is fire in Sanskrit. And Agni is the fire of digestion. So this is literal digestion of food, also digestion of thought, of story, of emotions, right? Agni is the processing through so things don't get stuck and stay in us. But there is also Bhutagni. And Bhutagni is the fire that, this sounds so intense, but I really love it. It's the fire that burns the ghosts that haunt you. Were y'all ready for that? No, me neither, I know. The fire that burns the ghosts that haunt you. Now, I take that to mean the misguided stories I have accepted as true about myself from early childhood all the way through my adulthood, right? Those are actual ghosts that haunt me. They unseen influence everything that I take in, everything that I see, everything that I hear, everything that I experience is influenced by these stories, these beliefs. And when we work with fire, what we're working with is this opportunity to burn away the stories that are not true. The things that we have believed or held on to for perhaps decades, but do not serve us. In fact, they weigh us down. They block out the sun because there's too much growth, and nothing new can grow or flourish, and nothing can heal. Right? In the winter solstice, many of you know because you took this class with me, the ritual in the winter solstice is to light fires because we're calling the sunlight home. And in indigenous cultures, They would often burn the grasslands surrounding rivers to call the salmon home, right? Lighting fires can be a calling home. And as I have often referenced lately, because I'm quite obsessed with it, I have been reading Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. And in this, as she writes about this burning of the grasslands to call these salmon home, she writes of the ceremony of it, right? It's a ceremonial experience. And she writes that ceremony focuses attention so that attention can become intention. Ceremony focuses attention so that attention can become intention. And I think it's in this vein that we're practicing. What we're doing when we work with the elements is essentially ceremonial. It is calling in these ties to the natural world, these lessons for ourselves. And it's asking them to guide our attention, our conscious thinking mind to something that's deeper, to intention, right? Which is not based in the mind, but is perhaps based in the gut, in that second brain, right? It's perhaps based there in a deeper wisdom. So we'll practice in just a moment. Before we do, I wanted to read a little something. So we practice with this fire in the belly. And ultimately what we're doing is we're letting that flame expand until it's up, touching the heart, and perhaps ultimately moving through the body as a whole. And I invite you to do this without any fear or holding back. Because these fires, the fire of Agni, the fire of Bhutagni, they're not out to burn stuff that doesn't need to be burned. You're not going to mistakenly burn something. You're going to burn the ghosts that haunt you. You're going to burn the stories and the emotions that are no longer serving and need to be cleared out so that rejuvenation can happen. So what I wanted to read tonight is a verse from the Radiance Sutras. The Radiance Sutras is a collection of teachings in the Tantra tradition. It's beautiful, beautiful text. And so obviously this has been translated. Originally it was in Sanskrit. And this is just one tiny verse out of 112 verses. But it speaks a little bit, I think, to the beauty of fire, the ability of fire to call us home, versus what I think we can easily think of when we think of fire, which is like scary, fearsome, a raging inferno, right? And so in the Radiance Sutras, this is what's offered. When you close your eyes, attention turns toward the inner glow. The heart sees by its own light, pulsing with subtle flame. In your forehead is a single eye. Here streams of living electricity flow together. The body of substance and the body of light fuse into one. Above your head, a star is shining, the soul, luminous in its own realm. Life arises from itself in a swirling motion of flame. Being becomes body. In meditation, adore the subtle fire. In heart, in head, and above, dissolve into radiance. And so as we practice tonight, we'll go through all the elements as we did last week. And as we work with fire, what I invite is, can we hold this space of dissolving into radiance? Because this is what it's prepping us to do. Yeah? Okay. So let's find a seat for meditation. If you've already been seated, uncross your legs, move around a little bit, wiggle your toes. You can let your hands rest down onto your lap. Let your palms face down. Let your eyes drift closed. And together as a group here, let's start with a breath. So take a nice big inhale in the nose and exhale out a sigh. And we'll just do that once more, inhaling deeply and exhaling out a sigh. And allowing your breath to flow. And taking one conscious moment to feel yourself transition from your day, from that talk, right into the stillness of practice. And it's okay if there are things that you want to think about or process. It's okay if there are ideas that you want to explore. But for this brief time together, let's set all of that aside and invite your body to let go into the cushion or chair beneath you. Silently to yourself, now is my time to meditate. Now is my time to meditate. And as you feel both the attention and the intention of that statement, invite yourself to withdraw a bit from all the concerns of your day. Softening across the edges of your body as you breathe. Feel your hips and your thighs let go into the supports beneath them. And as you breathe, notice if you can just relax your belly a little bit here. So that your belly feels soft and open. And perhaps you notice a little bit of movement with your breath. Subtle expansion as you breathe in. And a subtle contraction as you breathe out. Gradually we move our awareness up a little ways to the center of the chest. Letting go through the muscles of the chest. Imagining you could relax the heart itself. And you'll feel breath move out across your shoulders. Inviting your shoulders to drop back and down. And you feel up the back side of the neck. Lifting the base of the skull up just a tiny bit so that your neck feels really long and open. And Top of your head is expanding up towards the ceiling. And the muscles through the face relax. Across the brow. Across the eyes and the jaw. And perhaps you even feel a sense of space inside the mouth. Perhaps you notice your breath just falling into a slow, steady rhythm. Nothing that you need to control or shape. And you can just take a moment to feel breath moving in. And feel breath moving out. Our awareness moves back down to the center of the chest, the heart center. And it's here that we call to mind the experience of wind. Remembering how wind feels as it moves against your skin and through your hair. From the center of the heart out in all directions, invite the experience of wind to move through you. Imagining great sweeping gusts, clearing out all the corners, sweeping across every surface. And if you choose, you can repeat the seed sound of wind silently to yourself. This is yum. Yum, 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 yum. Yum, 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 yum. Just to yourself at your own tempo. I have about a minute here with wind. Feeling the element of wind both clear you out and dry you out. And you allow the feel of wind to dissipate. And your awareness drops down to the center of the belly, just behind the belly button. And it's here that you might feel or even see a flame. The fire of digestion, of passion, of energy, of life force. as you breathe, you imagine your inhales fanning that flame. Inviting that flame to grow bigger and broader until the tips of the flame lick the edges of your heart, becoming the very fire that burns the ghosts that haunt you, the false stories, the false beliefs, all the dead weight on the forest floor. Let it burn. As you allow fire to move through you, you might silently say to yourself, rum, 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 rum. Rum, 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 rum. 1 minute here with fire. And gradually you feel those flames begin to smolder and go out. Taking time, maybe you see smoke leave the body on exhale. You feel ash falling to the body's floor. Knowing that all this ash is providing nutrients, nourishment for our growth. And our awareness now drops down a little bit lower. Right in the center of creativity, of generation. And it's here that we find water. A fluid and flowing river that we can allow to flow right through our entire body. The water washes clean. It moisturizes and lubricates. And always, always, the water provides flow. And so we breathe as we allow water to course through our bodies, and silently to ourselves, Vam, 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 Vam. Vam, 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 vam. Vam, 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 vam. When you feel completely fluid, this is when the water settles. When the water is absorbed into the ground and our awareness drops to the very root of our body, the pelvic floor. And it's here that we feel the element of earth. And in any way that feels fitting for you, you invite in this experience of rich, dark soil. Perhaps you know the smell of earth, or the texture, or the color. Bring the experience of earth into your body, letting yourself feel as full as is comfortable for you. Knowing that this earth is completely nourished from the elements that came before it. This earth is wide open and expansive in the light of your being so that new growth can happen. And it's here at home in your body that we stay with the element of earth and we say Lam, 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 Lam. Feeling yourself at home in the body. And taking one last moment to simply let the breath flow and the experience settle. Remembering that it's only when we have all elements functioning together that we can know prosperity. When you feel ready, you can let your breath deepen a bit. Savoring these next few inhales and exhales. Allowing these last breaths to be that moment when perhaps you dissolve into radiance. When you're ready, you can wiggle your fingers and your toes, remembering your body and its edges. We'll draw our palms together in front of the heart like a prayer. Bow your chin down. Taking one final deep breath in. And a full sigh out of the mouth. Thank you guys so much for your practice today. When you're ready, you can release your palms and blink your eyes open.
Thanks for practicing with me, y'all. In this episode, we opened the door to the transformative power of fire. We explored fire not just as a physical force, but as a sacred presence, one that clears, purifies, and rejuvenates both land and spirit. From ancient ceremonies to the fire in our own bellies, we examined how intentional burning can digest what no longer serves us, prevent emotional wildfires, and ultimately guide us home to the heart. Fire, when honored and tended, becomes a source of clarity, vitality, and deep inner renewal. Don't forget to join me next Thursday when we add the element of water to our practice. I'll see you then. Thanks for listening to Our Mindful Nature. If you would like to receive today's meditation practice and nature soundscape as standalone audio files for your daily practice, please subscribe to my newsletter at merylarnett.com. It's free and you'll receive a new practice each week. Our Mindful Nature is recorded on Muskogee land and is produced with the support of Nick McMahon and Brianna Nielsen. Deep gratitude is offered to acoustic ecologists Nick McMahon and Gordon Hempton for the use of their nature field recordings in many of these episodes. We release a mini episode that's just the meditation, no chatter beforehand, every Monday. And every Thursday, we release a full episode with a meditation class or interview. I look forward to practicing with you again soon.